Hello everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Alexandria Drakeford, and welcome to welcome to Faith with Alex. So today I'm excited to be bringing a topic called don't miss your exit. I had to remember that really quick. I'm so excited to be bringing a topic called don't miss your exit, and so excited because just today I was literally on my way home, and a car in front of me was just driving a little too slow for my comfort. So my exit was coming up, and I was like, you know what, I'll just hurry up and swerve around them, and I'll still be able to make it off my exit. Just literally I was about to go around them. I didn't realize that my exit was now approaching, and I would have missed my exit had I went around the car, had I not been patient, had I just waited, and God just, as soon as that happened, God spoke to me and said, you know what, Alex, don't miss your exit. Don't think that you know where you're going. Don't get off too soon. Don't go around the things that I'm trying to make you wait for. So that is what I want to talk about today, and I hope that you're excited for this message. We're going to be going to the book of Ruth, and we're going to start in chapter 1 at verse 3. Now Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her two sons. They married Moabite women, one named Orpah and the other Ruth. After they had lived there about 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion also died, and Naomi was left without her two sons and her husband. Drastic, right? So tragedy definitely struck Naomi's life, her family, her livelihood, everything that she knew, everything that she was accustomed to was shaken. And now she was left with these two daughter-in-laws. Her husband is now gone and her sons are now gone. So when Naomi had heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people by providing food for them, she and her daughters-in-law prepared to return home from there. With her two daughters-in-law, she left the place where she had been living and set out on the road that would take them back to the land of Judah. Verse 8. Then Naomi said to her two daughters-in-law, "Go back, each of you, to your mother's home. May the Lord show you kindness as you have shown kindness to your dead husbands and to me. May the Lord grant that each of you will find rest in the home of another husband." So during these times, it was tradition. It was known for that, if, like Naomi, if their husbands died, they would stay committed to the mother-in-law. And just like, I feel like I would probably do the same thing. Like if my husband passed away, I would still be committed to my mother-in-law. I'm not married, but to my mother-in-law, but I would definitely still feel committed to her and to the family. But Naomi is pushing them and saying, you know what, guys, it ain't looking too good for me. I lost my husband, I lost my sons in a matter of some days, and you know what? It's probably best if you go back to your home, go back to your mothers, go back to your families, because there's really no way that I could provide somebody else for you to marry. It goes on to say that then she kissed them goodbye, and they wept aloud and said to her, "We will go back with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons who could become your husbands? Return home, my daughters. I am too old to have another husband. Even if I thought there was still hope for me, even if I had a husband tonight and then gave birth to sons, would you wait until they grew up? Would you remain unmarried for them? No, my daughters, it is more bitter for me than for you, because the Lord's hand has turned against me." I just feel for Naomi. Her hope was lost. Her hope was gone, and for good reason. Like, I can't say that I would have reacted any differently. Like, I would have been like, "Girl, child, go home." Like, it ain't cool over here no more. Like, you don't want to be around me because the Lord has basically put his hand against me in my life, and don't you see what's going on? And even if I had some hope, even if I had a little faith that I could have a husband again, would you wait? She's telling them, would you guys wait until they grow old? And like any person who's probably like, yeah, you're right. Excuse me, I love you and all that, but you know what? I'm going back home. I'm you're right, basically. So that's what Naomi is trying to push on these women, telling them, you know what, girls, I love you. I thank you for your dedication to me and to your husbands, but I think you should go home. Basically trying to give them advice. But they continued to weep aloud. Then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. Then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. Who can blame Orpah, honestly? Who could blame her? Orpah was put in a position where she was like, you know what? I want my husband. I want a family more than I want to stay linked to Naomi, and more than I want to stay linked to her family. So it's probably best. Naomi's probably right. It's probably best that I go back to my home. And so she kissed her mother-in-law goodbye and she left. And that's the last thing that we hear about Orpah. We don't know if she found another husband. We don't know if she had kids. We don't know what her life became because she left. And that is the dangerous thing sometimes that we can encounter in our lives, is that God takes us to a place and we get so tired. We feel like, you know what, it's probably best to go back. And we leave and we miss out on all of the promises that God had for us. If we would have just kept on going, if we would have just held a little longer, if we would have just clung to his word a little bit longer, just a little bit longer, we would have been able to go into our promised land. Look, said Naomi, your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods. Go back with her. That's what she's telling Ruth. But Ruth replied, don't urge me to leave or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. And where you stay, I will stay. Your God will be my God. Your people will be my people. Where you die, I will die. And there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me. When Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped urging her. Ruth was committed to the plans that God has. Ruth knew, if God brought me this far with Naomi, he ain't leaving me now. I understand the situation. I understand the tragedy that has taken place, but God's still God. And if God brought me to Naomi and God blessed me while I was with Naomi, what's going to make it any different if I were to leave? What's going to make it any different if I were to stay? What's going to make it any different? God is going to still be with me. God's going to still shower his blessings upon us. And Ruth realized that. Ruth realized that her obedience was connected to her promise, that her obedience was connected to her destiny. Ruth didn't have time to give into her feelings. Ruth didn't have time to give into the cravings of this world that says, go back to where you're from. Go back to your comfortable place. Go back to your home. Go back to the place that I've already called you out of, so that you can be welcomed back into this life that you think you're supposed to have. Ruth was committed. She was committed to the process. She didn't know if she was gonna have a husband. She didn't know if, life was gonna ever turn out the way that she expected it to be. But she was committed to Naomi, and Naomi recognized that commitment in her, and she left it at that. She stopped urging Ruth to leave. And we guys, we have to know, we really have to know, because Orpah stopped. She stopped short. She stopped short of the blessings that God may have brought into her life. She stopped short, and the things that we're looking at in our lives, they may look unpromising. They may look like they suck. Our lives can be looking like this ain't where it's at. But you gotta stay faithful. You can't fall into your feelings. You can't fall into this pit where you're just like, I'm just tired. Like, it's probably best if I just go back to the comfortable place that I was living. But you have to stay on the track with the Lord. And like I said in one of my other videos, and I'm gonna link it up here, but basically, the Israelites, when they were on their way to their promised land, they were in the wilderness complaining and groaning and getting mad at Moses, getting mad at Moses and Aaron, that they were out in the wilderness, and now, since they had been brought out of Egypt, they were in the wilderness and they were uncomfortable and they were shaking, and they didn't have the same amount of food that they had in Egypt. in slavery, in the place that didn't represent God, in the place where God had called them out of. They got so comfortable being in slavery. And sometimes, guys, we can get so comfortable with being in slavery that even a thought of going to a promised land seems hopeless for us. That we're just like, you know what? Nah, fam, like, nah. I'll go back to my home. I'll go back to the place where I know God has already called me out of. And sometimes God has to separate you from those things that you think that you just got to be around, those comfortable places. I know He did it for me. Like, I moved to Atlanta a year and a month ago. I moved to Atlanta in January of 2016, away from my close family. I have family here, but away from the comfort of my family, away from my closest friends, away from all the things that I knew, away from the church that I had been going through. He moved me to Atlanta because He had to show me things here. He had to take me away from my comfortable environments. And you know, sometimes God just has to take us out of those comfortable environments that we're just so used to. Sometimes He got to take you away from those close family members. Sometimes He got to take you away from those close friends. Sometimes He got to take you away from your boyfriend or from your girlfriend or from your husband, or hope not, chill, not your husband, but sometimes he has to take you away from those things that you think you need, so that you can know that you only need Him. And I think that's where Ruth found herself. She was like, you know what, Naomi, I know I do want a husband. Those are my dreams. I thought that God, you know, I thought that God was bringing those promises into my life, but now that's ended. And I can't afford to go back home. I can't afford to go back to the comfortable places that I was in, because I know God has delivered me from those places already. I can't afford to go back, because if I go back to the old ways, to my old thoughts, to my old habits, if I go back, then I know that the journey is going to be that much longer. The Israelites, it was supposed to take them 14 days to get to the promised land. It took them 40 years. Because of their grumbling, because of their complaining, because of their thoughts, because of their mindset. It took them 40 years to get to the promised land. And a lot of them didn't even make it to the promised land. God killed them off. He's like, none of you, because you're complaining, because you're grumbling. Even Moses wasn't able to see the promised land. And we have to be committed. We have to stop our complaining. We can't stop too soon. We can't get weary. We can't feel like God isn't with us. And when we feel that God isn't with us, we just stop and we just go back. We can't do that, because the world's gonna tell you to trust your feelings. Trust your feelings. Your feelings know everything. I don't know if I like him. Well, trust your feelings, girl. Trust your feelings, child. If your feelings say you like him, then you like him. If your feelings say you don't like him, then you don't like him. Then you go to somebody else at your marriage, and you're saying, oh, I don't know about my marriage. It's, you know, he's not the person I married. She's not the person who I thought she was. It's just not working out. Girl, trust your feelings. Go to your feelings. Your feelings know right. Your heart knows. Your feelings know. No, they don't know. Who told you that? Your feelings don't know anything. They don't know anything. You have to let your feelings die. Your feelings have to die to the promises of God, because sometimes you don't always feel like praying. You don't always feel like being around your husband. You don't always feel like being around your wife. You don't always feel like being a mom. But that doesn't neglect the responsibility that you have to them. We can't trust our feelings. We can't trust the feelings of wanting to go back to the comfortable ways of living. We can't get sent for you single women. You can't get so weary on this road that you're traveling to your future spouse that you give up just before your exit and go back to your old ways of living. If you would have just stepped a little bit further, just like me on the way home today, if I would have just stayed patient a little longer, I would have known that my exit was coming up. I wouldn't have tried to go around the car. I wouldn't have tried to maneuver around to speed up things. I would have just waited and just been still. Like, you know what, my exit's coming up. I know this car is going slow. Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they just want to spend some time out of their home. It's perspective. It's your perspective that has to get in line with the promises of God, because your feelings are going to tell you to give up. Your feelings are going to tell you to quit. Your feelings are going to tell you that this isn't working out. Your feelings are going to tell you that it's never going to end. Your feelings. God, I speak against your feelings right now, because I'm telling you, they will rise up in you, and you will think that your feelings are God, and it's not, because God's word is his word. And you know the word that he's spoken over you, and you know the promises that he's spoken to you, and you know it. So stop questioning it. Somebody's watching this video, you're questioning if you heard God. You're questioning if God really told you that. And let me reassure you, he told you that. Whatever that thing is, he told you. Stop trusting your feelings. When God's telling you to write a book, or God's telling you to start a YouTube channel, or God's telling you to go here or move to this new city, God is telling you to submit to your husband, but because you trust your feelings of you feel like, I don't really feel like I can do that, Lord. I don't really feel like I can go there, Lord. I don't really know anyone there. I don't feel like I can do it. So you just stop short. And you miss your exit, and you just keep on going, unaware of the promises that were waiting on you had you just gotten off the exit. Unaware of the promises that were waiting on you had you just listened to God. Had you just waited. Had you just stayed faithful. Had you just persevered. Had you just not went back like Orpah. We don't know what happened to Orpah. We don't know where she is. I mean, she's in heaven, hopefully. But like we don't know what became of her life. But what do we know about Ruth? She ended up meeting Boaz. Boaz was the father of Obed. Obed was the father of Jesse. Jesse was the father of David. She was in the lineage of Jesus because she stayed committed to the promise that God had. She stayed committed to the plans that God had. She didn't trust her feelings to go back home. She didn't trust her feelings to get in the way of what the big picture was. She stayed patient with God. She stayed faithful with God. And she is someone who we're still talking about today. We talk about Boaz when all of us, when single women, when all of us single women, we talk about, you know, who we want our husband to be, who we want our husband to look like. Boaz is someone who you want your husband to be. And why is that? Because Ruth, we know Boaz to be that husband because Ruth was that wife. Ruth was that supporter. Ruth was that woman of God who stayed by Boaz. Ruth was that woman who submitted to God's plan, and ultimately God used her obedience to bring her into the destiny that he had already had planned for her. Had Ruth left, had Ruth gone back home, she would have never met Boaz, and we wouldn't be talking about Ruth today. Had Ruth gone back to the old ways, to maybe her old boyfriend, or to her old childhood friend, she wouldn't be able to bless the ones who were a part of her future. Ruth was able to give joy back to Naomi. Naomi, who called herself Mara, which means bitter. Naomi was bitter. Naomi had bitterness inside of her, but through Ruth, as Ruth had children, as Ruth had a husband, as Ruth had children, Ruth was able to bring life back into Naomi's spirit and bring life back into Naomi's heart. You never know, and I say this to myself all the time. You never know who is on the other side of your obedience. You never know. That's why you have to stay faithful. That's why you can't miss your exit. You can't just keep going. You just can't keep going when God is telling you to get off. When you're driving in your car and you have your GPS on, you're not ignoring your GPS. I hope you're not. Like you're constantly paying attention to make sure that you're on the right track. You're constantly paying attention to your GPS to make sure that when they say turn, you turn. When they say make a U-turn, you make a U-turn. You don't just keep driving because you know that's not going to get you to where you're trying to go, right? So that's why you have to listen. God is your navigator. God can show you which way to go. God can tell you which way to turn. He is leading you. He is directing you. Don't miss your exit. Don't miss your opportunity. Don't miss your window of opportunity. Had Ruth left, that was her window. Her window would have been shut, and that's it. That's it. You can't afford that. Your future husband can afford that. Your future children can afford that. Your future career, your future book, your future business cannot afford for you not to stay on the path that God has made out for you. You cannot afford to go back. You cannot afford to miss your exit. You cannot afford to trust your feelings and ignore the voice of God. You have to submit to the plans no matter what you may face. Ruth was submitted. She was submitted to the plans. Her husband passed away, but she was still submitted. And I mean, I would have wanted my mama. I'm like, let me give me my mama. I'm going to my mama, you know. But I've learned, like, you got to be submitted to the Lord, to the voice of God. You have to be submitted to that thing, because you never know. You never know what's on the other side of your obedience. And you never know how close you are to your exit. How close you are to your exit. If you would have just stayed, if you would have just persevered, if you would have just stayed on the path that God had out for you, you never know how close you would have been to the promises that you were wanting. You never know how close you were to the desires of your heart. Delight yourself in the Lord. It says in Psalms, delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Delight yourself in the Lord. Delighting means to engulf yourself in the love of God, no matter what comes. Delight yourself. That means that when tragedy comes, when disappointment comes, when hurts come, when abandonment comes, when regrets come, that you have to delight yourself in the Lord, because He is the one who's going to make the path straight. You can't trust your feelings. You can't trust people's opinions. And I'm gonna do a video about people bondage, because I've been free from people bondage this year, and I just have to share how freeing and how important it is to be free from the opinions of people, because you have to trust the word of God. You cannot trust people's opinions and what they have to say about you or your life. You have to be free from those things. God wants to make your world beautiful. He wants to bring you your Boaz. He wants to bring you your Ruth. He wants to bring you that joy back. If you're feeling like Naomi today, if you're feeling bitter, He wants to bring you that joy back into your life. Trust Him. Believe Him. Don't push away the things that He's bringing into your life. Don't go back to your old ways of living. Don't go back to the ways of your comfort. Get uncomfortable so that you can be on the path to freedom, so that you can be on the path to your purpose, to your destiny, to your promised land. God loves you. I am praying for you guys. I know that this is a season where we're going to start experiencing the freedom and the birth of the things that we've been believing for. Stand on that this week. Stand on your promises this week. The Lord loves you. I love you again. Please be sure to like, to subscribe, to comment below on any topic you want me to discuss. Thank you guys for stopping by. Bye.